So I'm hoping that more people have access to this information, people share this information, because Ohio is in a very peculiar place when it comes to cannabis and social equity. All right, so here it is. On November 7th, 2023, Ohio became the 24th state in the nation to legalize marijuana for adult recreational use. Following the lead of other states, the Ohio ballot initiative included social equity provisions designed to address past harm of marijuana criminalization by investing in disproportionately impacted communities and encouraging participation of such groups in the new legal cannabis industry. The purpose of this resource page and associated report is to highlight the varying strategies other states have employed to fulfill social equity goals and to look at how Ohio's new law compares to others. At the bottom of the page, explore additional research and events related to cannabis social equity. So the introduction: when policymakers and advocates discuss social equity in the respect of marijuana legalization, they typically focus on three policy areas. One, criminal justice reforms encompassing record relief and resentencing, efforts to facilitate participation of underrepresented groups in the marijuana industry by providing technical and financial support or by setting aside a certain number of types of licenses, and three, investment into disproportionately affected communities. As of 2023, an overwhelmingly majority of legalization states have enacted some social equity provisions alongside their adult use marijuana programs. As shown in tables 22 of the 24 legalization states have criminal justice reform. 20 states have created industry participant assistance programs, and 18 states have either adopted community reinvestment provisions or are in the process of considering them. Not all marijuana-related social equity provisions were enacted as part of the initial marijuana legalization reforms, which was especially the case with the states that were part of the early wave of legalization. As shown in Table 1 below, many of these early states adopted social equity provisions through subsequent enactments. In the following sections, we look at each policy area in greater detail, starting with criminal justice reform, followed by community reinvestment and industry participation. In addition to the three policy areas, we also provide detailed information on the criteria selected states have used to determine individual and community eligibility for participating in the social equity programs. We conclude the report with recommendations for greater data collection and analysis concerning the impact of social equity efforts and a more robust assessment of best practices for social equity programs. Table 1, overview of all three social equity policy areas by state. So here you go, you have Table 1, you have all the states. Alaska, 2014 by the ballot. Criminal justice reform, no. Community reinvestment, no. Industry participation assistance, no. In Alaska, that's crazy. Arizona, 2020 by ballot. Criminal reform, yes. Enacted during and post legalization. Community reinvestment, yes. Enacted during legalization. Industry participation, yes. California, yes, yes, yes. Colorado, yes, in all three. Connecticut, yes, in all three. Delaware, yes, in all three. Illinois, yes, in all three. Maine, no, in all three. Maryland, yes, in all three. Massachusetts, yes, in all three. Michigan, yes, in all three. Minnesota, yes, in all three. Missouri, yes, in all three. Montana, yes, in the criminal justice reform. No in the other two in Montana. Nevada, yes. In the first one, no in the second one, yes. And industry participation assistance. You got New York, yes in all three. New Mexico or New Jersey, yes in all three. New Mexico, yes in all three. Ohio, yes in all three. Oregon, yes in the first one, no in two. Virginia, yes in all three. Washington, yes in all three. Vermont, yes in all three. Rhode Island, yes in all three. Criminal justice provisions. Criminal justice reform enacted by states in response to marijuana legalization can be broadly divided into two types: record relief provisions and resentencing provisions. Record relief provisions nationwide. States use different terms to describe record relief provisions, with expungements and record sealing being used for most frequent. In addition to labels such as set aside, vacate, or erasure, as described in greater detail in the previous report, record relief encompasses a wide variety of provisions that can differ significantly in its scope. Four elements help determine the breadth of available relief: the range of offenses eligible for relief, the extent to which record records are removed for government databases, how long one must wait before being able to seal the records, and who has responsibility for initiating sealing of sealing or expungement. In respect to the classified as misdemeanors, while other states such as Missouri allow for the sealing of a broad range of crimes, including felonies as well as misdemeanors. Second, the degree to which records are destroyed after a sealing varies, with some states destroying any record of past marijuana convictions, while others only remove records from public view but allow the use for certain purposes, such as determining eligibility for employment in law enforcement or as sentencing for any future offense. Third, states differ in the immediacy in which the record relief is available to people with marijuana criminal records, with some states offering immediate relief and other instituting various wait times or limiting relief only to convictions that took place within a specified time frame. Lastly, the scope of relief is determined by whether the responsibility to initiate proceedings rests with the state, often called an automatic or government-initiated process, or whether it rests with the individual with the criminal record, generally called petition-based relief. As shown in table 2, 22 of the 24 legalized states have taken steps to provide record relief for marijuana-related convictions or other low-level convictions that would cover marijuana criminal offenses. Alaska and Maine are the only two states without a record relief mechanism for past convictions. A total of 16 states have implemented some form of government-initiated record relief, whether through provision within the adult use program that are marijuana specific or via a clean slate type of legislation enacted separately from the adult use program. So basically what this is saying for anybody, because this is how they get common folk, right? This is how the institutions and institutionalized themes get the common folk, especially people who have been locked up, people who have been criminalized, communities that have been disproportionately criminalized. When you understand the war on drugs and how its impact on American descendants of slaves, black people, brown people, Latinos, African Americans, FBA, whatever classification umbrella that you put yourself on, that this government has placed us under, we have to understand that this is what they do. They use a bunch of words to say a bunch of things. Basically, what it's saying is that the states have created ways to either erase the conviction if you've been convicted of criminal crimes behind marijuana. So that's paraphernalia, that's getting convicted for distribution, right? And I'm not a lawyer, so make sure you guys go to a lawyer. You know what I mean? This is just me, common citizen, reading from OSU Morris College of Law. So this is what I'm getting. Let me know in the comments what you take from it. So basically, these are just different ways that the institutions have said that we will erase or close your record, expunge your record. And so every state is different. Every state has a different mechanism of how they do that. So if you do have a criminal record behind cannabis, if you're locked up, if you're in jail or you're on probation, you need to know this stuff. You need to get a lawyer or go to the state or go to your city, your county, wherever your convictions are. And put in a petition, right? Some of these places you have to put in petitions. Some of these places you have to write to the governor or whatever. The governor in Ohio, I'm in Ohio, the governor, just like the governor of Maryland, just expunged a bunch of records, I think 100,000 plus records. The governors have the powers to do a lot of things. Ohio being a red state, we need to get the governor to do the right thing. But unfortunately, he's not doing those things right now. So resentencing provision nationwide. The second category of criminal justice relief involves the authorization of resentencing for those still subject to punishment for marijuana related offenses. As with record relief, resentencing provisions differ from the state to state, but generally allow individuals currently serving a marijuana related sentence an opportunity to have this sentence amended or completely vacated. This type of relief is less common, with only 8 states out of 24 adopting resentencing provisions for past marijuana offenses. Record relief and resentencing in Ohio. The Ohio Marijuana Legalization Initiative, passed in November of 2023, did not include any direct criminal justice reform provisions. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. This is huge. This is what we need to be talking about. However, it did earmark some marijuana tax revenue to study and fund judicial and criminal justice reform, including bail, parole, sentencing reform, expungement, and sealing of records, legal aid, and community policing related to marijuana as part of the Cannabis Social Equity and Jobs Program. Notably, over the past 12 years, the Ohio General Assembly has passed numerous record relief reforms that have significantly near complete destruction of records of offenses eligible for sealing by making expungement broadly available with additional wait time. Consequently, the majority of marijuana offenses in Ohio are eligible for both record sealing and expungement. The process remains petition-based, which generally limits it to its effectiveness due to low utilization among eligible Ohioans. Although recent legislation allows prosecutors to initiate record relief petitions on behalf of individuals convicted of minor substance offenses. However, an initial survey of prosecutorial offices across Ohio suggests that only a small number of offices plan to participate in the process to initiate record relief. At present, Ohio does not have any statutes allowing the resentencing of marijuana offenses. That's huge. That's huge. So really, it's about spreading the word. People don't know. And if people don't know, people won't do. So that's good to know. Good information to know. All right, so here's Table 2, summary of descriptions of record relief and resentencing provisions by the state. So state, Alaska, record relief description, none, resentencing, none. So let's go down to Ohio. Ohio's Cannabis Social Equity and Jobs Program authorizes a fund to study reforms, including expungement. Ohio allows for the sealing of expungement of wide classes of misdemeanor and felonies, with various wait periods in place depending on the type of offense. Record relief is petition-based. Resentencing provisions, none in Ohio. Industry participation support. The second policy area of marijuana social equity is industry participation support aimed at individuals and communities that have been disproportionately affected by marijuana criminalization or other distinct groups such as veterans. With much of the marijuana industry structured around state licensing requirements, states have typically adopted 2 approaches to industry participation support. 1, a license assistance program, which can include financial and or technical assistance provided to applicants that meet requirements for participation. And 2, equity license allocations or preferences. As shown in Table 4 below, 12 states have enacted statutes requiring a certain number or certain percentage of licenses to be allocated for individuals who are part of the disproportionately affected community or who have met other criteria set by the state regulators. Additionally, 20 states have established programs to provide license assistance, whether through application fee waivers or reductions, programs that have loans to applicants, or by offering technical assistance. 19 states have also enacted language that sets aside funds for providing some form of business education training for equity applicants and their workforce. These programs can come in the form of job training, business marketing, literacy and tutoring programs, apprenticeships, mentoring services, and other programs meant to foster economic growth for equity applicants and the communities impacted by enforcement. Only 4 states do not have or do not provide any form of industry participation support. Alaska, Maine, Montana, and Oregon. Ohio Industry Participation Support. The newly passed initiative in Ohio calls for the Department of the Development to establish a business assistance program funded by the Cannabis Social Equity and Jobs Fund and to adopt rules to administer the program, including the following: provide financial assistance, loans, grants, and technical assistance to persons certified by the department under the Cannabis Social Equity and Jobs Program pursuant to rules adopted under this section. Encourage employment practices in which an adult use cannabis operator can demonstrate a plan of action to inform, hire, and educate minorities, women, veteran, and persons with disability, engage in fair labor practices, and provide worker protections. For certain Cannabis Social Equity and Jobs Program participants, the Division of Cannabis Control shall waive at least 50% of any license or application fees associated with the license holder application or license. Additionally, the initiative also established a preferred status for applicants certified as Cannabis Social Equity and Jobs Program participants for 40 Level 3 adult use cultivator licenses, up to 5,000 square feet, and up to 50 adult use dispensary licenses. The Division of Cannabis Control shall issue up to 40 Level 3 adult use cultivator licenses consistent with this chapter, with preference provided to applicants who have been certified as Cannabis Social Equity and Jobs Program participants under the Cannabis Social Equity and Jobs Program pursuant to 3780.19 of this chapter. No person may have any ownership or control in more than one Level 3 adult use cultivator license under this chapter. No adult use cultivator or adult use processor may have any ownership or control in a Level 3 adult use cultivator license. D. The Division of Cannabis Control shall issue up to 50 additional adult use dispensary licenses in conformity with this chapter, with preference provided to applicants who have been certified as Cannabis Social Equity and Jobs Program participants under the Cannabis Social Equity and Jobs Program. It remains to be seen how and if any industry participation support program will establish in the state of Ohio. Revisions have already been proposed in the Ohio General that would eliminate all industry participation support provisions by rerouting marijuana tax revenue to mostly law enforcement priorities. Wow. Gee. Yeah, that's what we need to be talking about. We ain't been talking about this. We haven't been talking about this. I gotta highlight this real quick. I'll do it after. Let's see, Ohio. Man. Community reinvestment. Among the 24 adult use marijuana states, 15 states have created community reinvestment programs designed to invest some portion of the marijuana tax revenue into needy communities. The program encompasses efforts aimed to investment in job training and economic development opportunities, jail diversion, and violence prevention, or providing funds for reducing unemployment and homelessness, among other objectives. Some states direct community reinvestment funds specifically to communities deemed disproportionately affected by over-policing during Prohibition, while other reinvestment resources more generally into economically depressed areas. In addition to the 15 states with the functioning traditional community reinvestment programs, the state of Michigan has established a social equity grant program that is open to the social equity cannabis licenses, who can then engage in various community reinvestment activities in the jurisdiction where they are located. Two other states, Vermont and New Mexico, have community reinvestment programs in the planning stage, although they have yet to be implemented. Ohio Community Reinvestment. As mentioned in the previous section on Ohio Industry Participation Assistance, the recently passed initiative included a provision establishing the Cannabis Social Equity and Jobs Program, concerning community reinvestment, the initiative proposed in 12 fund direct investment in disproportionately impacted communities to enhance education, entrepreneurism, legal aid, youth development, violence prevention, and the arts related to the program. Additional tax revenue is allocated for substance use treatment and prevention, which can be seen as a form of community reinvestment if it is invested in communities disproportionately affected by past enforcement. Furthermore, the initiative also designated a portion of the tax revenue to be invested back into communities that have licenses within their jurisdiction. Similar to proposed reforms to Ohio's industry participation assistance provisions, revisions have already been proposed in the Ohio General Assembly that would eliminate funding for community investment by rerouting marijuana tax revenue to mostly law enforcement priorities, except for substance use treatment and prevention, which continue to be funded under HB 86, albeit at a lower level. Table 5, summaries of community reinvestment program by state. Let's go down to Ohio. Fund direct investment in disproportionately impacted communities to enhance education, entrepreneurism, legal aid, youth development, violence prevention, and the arts related to the program. Additional resources are set aside for the substance use treatment and prevention. Defining social equity applicants in disproportionately impacted communities. An important aspect of social equity programs, especially concerning community reinvestment and industry participation support, is the criteria state use to determine who is and who is not eligible for participation. The criteria used to determine eligibility for social equity program usually include a combination of two elements: personal circumstances, and two, a broader conceptualization of a disproportionately affected or deserving community. Personal circumstances, personal characteristics, or circumstances used by states to identify individuals to participate in the social equity program can be roughly divided into 4 categories. 1, criminal justice involvement. 2, economic status. 3, residence in a certain geographical area identified by the state. And 4, a broad category of other criminal justice involvement usually refers to the individual's personal experience with the marijuana arrest or conviction, or such direct experience by immediate family member. Economic status refers to certain income requirements for the individual or family. In addition, states often recognize current or past residents in a certain geographical area as an additional qualification criterion. Lastly, states sometimes recognize other characteristics as eligibility criteria, such as veteran status or being a farmer from a rural, economically depressed area. As shown in Table 6, states may use a single or a combination of the 4 factors to identify eligible social equity applicants. Community characteristics. States use a combination of criteria that assess the level of economic disadvantage and or measure of law enforcement in a given region for classifying communities as disproportionately affected. While some use the percentage of low-income households, others have used alternative economic indicators such as unemployment, SNAP benefits, participation, or free school lunches. With respect to criminal justice criteria, state and local governments have used rates of marijuana arrests, general drug arrests, and marijuana convictions to measure whether a community suffered higher levels of enforcement. It should be noted that defining disproportionately affected communities presents significant challenges due to the incomplete statewide criminal justice data, lack of sufficient detail to available data, and other issues. Table 7 below presents criteria used by a select group of states to identify communities eligible for social equity programs. Ohio criteria for identifying social equity participants in disproportionately impacted communities. The past initiative included a mixture of personal and community characteristics for identifying individuals and communities for participation in the social equity program. Namely, the Department of Development was tasked with establishing criteria based on a required a requirement that the business owner and owners show both social and economic disadvantage based on the following: A, wealth of the business seeking certification, as well as the personal wealth of the owner or owners of the business. Social disadvantage based on any of the following: the business owner or owners demonstrate membership in a racial minority group or show personal disadvantage due to color, ethnic origin, gender, physical disability, or long-term residence in an area of high unemployment. The owner or owners or their spouse, child, or parent have been arrested for, convicted of, or adjudicated delinquent for a marijuana-related offense as determined by the rule by the Department of Development prior to the effective date of this section. Economic disadvantage based on economic and business size threshold and eligibility criteria designed to stimulate economic development through license awards to businesses located in qualified census tracts. While the personal characteristics are generally well defined, the statute is rather vague about what criteria would be used to identify areas of high unemployment. Additionally, in a section that talks about community reinvestment, the language specifies disproportionately impacted communities without providing any additional information about which measures will be used to categorize disproportionately impacted communities. Concluding thoughts. In the last few years, we have seen a gradual shift to a wide acceptance of social equity programs in states that have legalized recreational adult use marijuana. As shown in Table 1 of the 16 states that have legalized recreational marijuana since 2018, 14 states have enacted social equity policies as part of their legalization effort. Only Montana did not adopt any social equity provisions, and the state of Vermont adopted social equity provisions post legalization. But as social equity policies gain momentum, states have also begun to recognize that implementation of these policies involves an array of complications and is often fraught with legal and procedural difficulties and uncertainties. In this last section of the report, we will briefly discuss a few frequently identified issues. Criminal justice reform. While not all states have legalized recreational marijuana, have embraced government-initiated record relief, there is a general consensus among advocates that the administrative barriers posed by the petitions-based system justify advocating for so-called automatic or government-initiated record relief. Unfortunately, there is rarely anything automatic about such efforts. For example, California enacted petition-based marijuana-related expungements in 2016 that authorized individuals who had completed a sentence or a wide-ranging of marijuana offenses, both felony and misdemeanor, to petition the court to either have the conviction dismissed and sealed, resentenced, and or cat just came out, my bad, redesignated depending on the offense. This was amended in 2018 to require government agencies to initiate the sealing of eligible records. Unfortunately, six years later, California has yet to complete the expungement of the estimated 227,000 eligible records. The reasons why implementation of government-initiated record sealing is difficult are numerous, but generally revolve around the lack of high-quality data stored in siloed databases, as well as the lack of resources to process large numbers of records. Additionally, marijuana-specific record relief is also sometimes hampered by the fact that newly passed legalization statutes do not align with old marijuana criminalization statutes. For instance, when Arizona voters legalized recreational marijuana in 2020, the resulting statute authorized expungement of possessing, consuming, or transporting 2 or 1.5 ounces or less of marijuana, of which not more than 12.5 grams was in form of marijuana concentrate. However, because a previous statute classified all possession of marijuana under the 2 pounds as the same offense, Court and police documents generally did not include detailed information about the amount of marijuana found on one person at a time of the arrest. Wow. Consequently, Arizona prosecutors, oh, sorry. Um, Consequently, Arizona prosecutors and courts spent a vast amount of time and resources in assessing and reviewing original case records to determine whether the applicant is eligible for expungement under the new statute, often to no avail. While adopting marijuana-specific record relief might seem like a common sense policy, policymakers and advocates need to make sure that that the admirable intent of the new statute is not impossible to implement in practice, and that the adoption of automatic sealing provisions does not turn into a broken promise for relief. Oh my gosh. Industry participation assistance. Numerous press reports have discussed unfulfilled promises of social equity policies focused on industry participation assistance. These reports highlight problems such as lengthy delays caused by legal challenges to eligibility criteria and the selection process, unusually high cost of entry combined with lack of access to traditional financing due to the cannabis federal status, um, unintended consequences of well-meaning but poorly designed regulations, persistent illicit market competition, and others. While other programs may have fared better than others in facilitating minority participation in the legal marijuana industry, designing and implementing a well-functioning social equity policy aimed at diversifying the cannabis industry has proven consistently challenging. Given these challenges, states might want to consider whether facilitating cannabis industry participation among communities that have been disproportionately affected by marijuana criminalization is the most efficient and effective means to achieve the goals of social equity policies, namely, enabling those communities most impacted by marijuana prohibition to benefit economically from the creation of a new industry. Given the resource incentive, um, Given the resource intensive nature of the cannabis industry and the challenges posed by the unfortunate stemming from incongruent federal and state legal environments, policymakers should consider whether other policy areas should be given more weight as they are designing social equity programs for their states. Community reinvestment. Unlike the other two policy areas, not much has been written about the impact of community reinvestment efforts. As shown in Table 6, community reinvestment efforts tend to be broad and in their focus, without well-defined end goals or measures of success, which in turn makes assessing their effectiveness difficult. However, the broad nature of some of the statutory language enacted by states also provides an ongoing opportunity to engage with members of the targeted communities to determine local needs and goals and to tailor specific community reinvestment efforts to achieve these objectives most effectively and efficiently. If the primary goal of social equity programs is to uplift struggling communities economically, then investment into things such as job training, minority business loan programs, scholarships, and other areas of need might be more effective ways to reach this objective than only focusing on facilitating cannabis industry participation. Defining social equity applicants in disproportionately impacted communities. The first step in identifying social equity program participants in disproportionately impacted communities is to select a set of eligibility criteria. While this might seem like a straightforward process, it is a complex problem as policymakers do not want to set the criteria so broad that it includes almost everybody, or so narrow that the program ends up serving very few. Additionally, policymakers must pay attention not only to what would make the best selection criteria, but also whether the selection criteria can be supported by easily accessible, high quality, and accurate data. As many criminal justice scholars know, The quality and availability of criminal justice data across the United States is abysmal, making any criminal justice criteria fraught with difficulty. When it comes to economic selection criteria, the availability of data on things such as unemployment, school lunches, or SNAP benefits is generally better, but it comes with another challenge: choosing the right time for determining eligibility. If lawmakers use present data only, they might be excluding people who have suffered economic hardships historically, but now find themselves living in a recently gentrified area. This also shows that identifying individuals and communities worthy of support through social equity programs can be a difficult and complex challenge. Need for data collection to allow for a rigorous evaluation of social equity programs. Statewide social equity policies enacted because of marijuana legalization are very new, with the oldest dating back to the summer of 2018. It is still too soon to conclude that these programs cannot accomplish their goals even as they experience early difficulties. These difficulties should not be viewed as a reason to give up on social equity policies, but rather as a reason to ensure that as new policies are adopted and old policies are adjusted, necessary data is being collected to allow for rigorous evaluation of programs' effectiveness. This will require a clear articulation of goals for each of the policy areas and a purposeful effort to collect data on all aspects of social equity policy. While diversifying the cannabis industry might be deemed a worthy goal, other objectives for community reinvestment and criminal justice reform can and should also be assessed to ensure the tax revenue is being invested reasonably. Woo! That was a lot of words. Thank y'all for being with me through that. Like I said, you guys can go check this out. This is Moritz College of Law, the Ohio State University. Yeah, let me know in the comments what y'all think. If you're from Ohio, let me know what state you're in. Do a roll call if you made it this far. Let me know in the comments what state you're in, what city you're in. If you're in the state of Ohio, even on YouTube, if you're in the state of Ohio, let me know what county, what city, what you're in. Let me know, what economic issues, because again, like, I'm somebody that might not qualify because, we make a certain amount of money, but it doesn't mean I'm not from an economically disadvantaged group. I'm in Columbus right now, literally 5 minutes away from Linden, North Columbus. Fortunate enough to go to college, have a degree, be married, have kids. For the most part, have health, have opportunities, be an entrepreneur, be able to create opportunities. But again, being able to compete in the cannabis industry is difficult because it's a capital intensive business. So if you're not able to get the loans, the grants, the assistance that is needed, it is almost impossible to compete in an industry that is run by multi-state operators and people with deep pockets. And you can't advertise and market and promote in certain type of ways, in ways that are naturally our community connect with, so advertising, having block parties or having food trucks or having DJs and music is how we celebrate or bring people into our establishments. And if we can't do that because the laws and the rules of regulating cannabis prohibit that, then you can get a dispensary, but you might not be able to consistently have enough traffic and enough financial support to maintain the business. Again, cultivation, same thing. Processing, same thing. Dispensing, same thing. So let me know, man, if you're in Ohio, if you're from an economically disadvantaged group, especially if you're African American, if you're Native American, American descendants of slaves, FBA, whatever you claim to be, Hebrew Israelite. We got to come together, man. There's a lot of division in our communities. But again, we have a lot of people that are locked up. You see in California, they have 227 people. I'm interested to see how many people in Ohio are still locked up for cannabis, marijuana offenses. Let me know if you have that data or you have information, or better yet, let me know if you've been impacted by the war on drugs. So if you're, let's say a brother, a sibling, an auntie, an uncle, a cousin, a mom, a dad, or somebody who's been impacted by the war on drugs, cannabis prohibition. Let me know if you've been impacted, how that has impacted your life. Obviously, how has your loved one being locked up impacted your life? How has this impacted your loved one's life and their opportunity, for just weed, especially if it was a non-violent thing, you know what I mean? Like if they got caught up in drug trafficking, or they got caught up in paraphernalia, or they just got caught up because Ohio is a racist state. You get outside the state and you got a couple small baggies, they gonna say that you was attempting to distribute, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of things, or you get caught with a roach. So let me know, man, because we need to have more conversations around this topic. I'm a huge advocate for social equity. I go into the dispensaries all the time. I've had a medical card since we've had since medical passed in Ohio. I've gone to the dispensaries since rec has passed. And the fact that there are very few, I think, we have one, Mavunu, that's black owned in Ohio, but I don't know any other dispensaries. I don't know any cultivators. I know a processor, Benaleaves, is partially black owned. I know Nora Labs is black owned processor. But yeah, let me know, man. We want to have more conversations. I might have to go to law school, man, just so I can be more. I don't know. Nah, I don't want to go to law school. I'll do the business side. I'm gonna start doing some business stuff. But yeah, let me know, man. Let me know what y'all think. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you found value in this, if you like this, if you want to have more conversations, if you want to have me on your platform to talk about what's going on in terms of social equity, social justice in Ohio. Again, I'm an author, former Division I All-American athlete, so I could talk about a lot of things of cannabis and how it makes me feel personally, how it's made me feel, but also, the legal side of things, because again, I like to smoke it, but I also believe that we should be benefiting economically from it. Our community should be benefiting economically from it. In Ohio, the last 2 weeks of rec sales, Ohio's made $22 million, or sold $22 million worth of cannabis. So the money's coming, and it's all cash. And where's that money going? So we have to really get on it. So I'm definitely going to start doing some more events, start connecting some more. So definitely reach out. Please follow us on Instagram at Ohio Cannabis Report. Follow us on X, Ohio Cannabis Report. Might be on TikTok as well. YouTube, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. And again, thank you guys for tuning in. My name is Gerald Moore Jr. You can follow me on my personal channel at Gerald Moore Jr. on Instagram. You can follow Athletes in Cannabis. Show love, man. Tap it in, tap it up, because we need to have these discussions, man. So thank you guys for tuning in. Till next time. Peace. I forgot to log in. No.